Welcome to the Global Reader. Today, we turn our attention to one of the most recognizable faces of the 20th century, Diana, Princess of Wales. She was a woman whose life, from her first exposure to her final, tragic moments, was defined by the unrelenting gaze of the world. Her story is a dramatic exploration of what happens when private life collides with global scrutiny. Diana did not just live in the public eye, she transformed the relationship between celebrity, royalty, and the media. This narrative will not only chart her journey from shy kindergarten assistant to global icon, it will be your essential lesson in the words for media and public relations, PR. We will master terms like paparazzi, tabloids, dissemination, exclusive, and narrative words you need to discuss global news and fame with precision. By examining Diana's symbiotic, yet ultimately destructive relationship with the press, you will unlock a vocabulary crucial for understanding the modern world. Chapter 1: The Frenzied Arrival and the Fairy Tale Narrative. Diana Spencer's life as a relatively unknown young woman ended abruptly in 1980, when her relationship with Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne, became serious. The doors of privacy slammed shut. She was thrust immediately into an unprecedented level of scrutiny. The media frenzy was immediate and overwhelming. The tabloids, the popular newspapers, focused and sensational stories were obsessed. Reporters and journalists from around the world descended upon her flat, chasing her every move. This intense, sudden exposure changed the dynamics of her existence overnight. The royal family's public relations, PR machine, historically reserved and distant, struggled to manage this new reality. They attempted to craft a perfect narrative. The shy, beautiful maiden plucked from obscurity to become a princess. This fairy tale image was carefully disseminated through official statements and highly choreographed photo opportunities. The press quickly latched onto her persona. The paparazzi, a new and increasingly aggressive breed of freelance photographer, found a gold mine in the young Diana. They realized that pictures of her were worth vast sums, fueling a relentless pursuit that would define the next 2 decades. Even the simplest act, like leaving her apartment, became a chaotic press conference of sorts, with cameras flashing and reporters clamoring for a quote. The vocabulary used by the press itself shifted. She was no longer Lady Diana, she was the people's princess, a title that suggested a closer, less formal bond with the public than the royal family had ever enjoyed. This narrative, constructed by the tabloids at first, was eventually embraced by the world. She became a global icon based on this initial exposure and the universally appealing image of innocent beauty. Chapter 2: The Clandestine Cracks in the Official Image. The wedding in 1981 was a global media event, broadcast to 750 million people. The narrative of domestic bliss was cemented. For the next few years, the PR strategy centered on maintaining this image of the perfect young family. Official statements were released to confirm births, birthdays, and planned engagements. However, behind the walls of the palaces, the reality was starkly different. Diana felt isolated and struggled with the claustrophobic scrutiny. Her attempts to find an authentic role were often met with resistance from the palace's conservative structure. During this period, Diana began to develop her own PR strategy, often unknowingly, through her direct interactions with the public. Her philanthropy was key. She chose to champion causes that were often marginalized, such as AIDS awareness and homelessness. She defied protocol by touching AIDS patients, a simple but profoundly symbolic gesture that was immediately captured by journalists and photographers and quickly disseminated worldwide. This built a new, powerful narrative of compassion and accessibility. The increasing tension between the royal persona she was required to maintain and her personal life led to clandestine breaches of protocol. Leaked information began to surface in the press, hinting at marital trouble. These leaks, whether intentional or accidental, destabilized the controlled image the palace was trying to disseminate. The paparazzi's intrusive behavior worsened, sensing the opportunity for a massive exclusive story. They shadowed her every move, making her life a constant, stressful press conference without a schedule. The media's saturation level was now absolute. Every smile, every tear, and every fashion choice was analyzed and broadcast, creating a 24/7 global discourse about her happiness. Chapter 3: Seizing the Narrative. The exclusive interview. By the early 1990s, The clandestine warfare between Diana and the palace PR machine had spilled into the public domain. The separation in 1992 signaled an all-out battle for the narrative. Both sides began to use their media strategically. The palace had its spin doctors, PR experts, who attempted to control the story through carefully worded statements and official briefings. They tried to portray Diana as unstable and difficult. Diana's response was unprecedented for a member of the royal family. She decided to give a candid, exclusive interview to the BBC's Panorama program in 1995. This was a masterstroke of public relations. In this television interview, watched by millions globally, Diana deliberately reframed the entire narrative. She spoke openly about her personal struggles, the marriage breakdown, and her mental health issues. She used language that resonated directly with the public, asserting her identity as a victim of the system rather than a disruptive persona. Her most famous quote from the interview, "There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," was a carefully delivered statement that immediately dominated headlines worldwide. The exposure was devastating to the palace. Diana had outmaneuvered their traditional PR strategy. She had taken the story from the control of journalists and reporters and delivered it herself. She achieved a massive wave of public sympathy and cemented her status as a global icon of vulnerability and resilience. Her candid discussion of her struggles marked a sea change in how public figures approached the media. The subsequent divorce was a formality, as the battle for the narrative had already been won by Diana in the court of public opinion. Chapter 4, Advocacy, Saturation, and the Final Scrutiny. After their divorce, Diana focused entirely on her global advocacy campaigns. She understood the immense power of her image and deliberately used the media frenzy to disseminate positive messages. She utilized the paparazzi's intrusive presence to ensure that her work was broadcast. Her most famous campaign involved landmines. By walking through an active minefield in Angola, she generated a huge, sympathetic exposure for the cause. Journalists and reporters who had once hunted her for gossip now covered her for her philanthropy. She had achieved a level of global acclaim and autonomy unprecedented for a divorced royal. However, the attention never waned. The relationship between Diana and the media was now a tense, symbiotic one. She needed their exposure for her causes, but they needed her for their sales. This need led to her ultimate peril. In the summer of 1997, while on holiday, the paparazzi saturation reached its peak. They pursued her relentlessly, leading to the tragic car accident in Paris. The scene was immediately captured by the same intrusive lens that had defined her life. The global reaction was one of profound shock and sympathy. The media who had pursued her were suddenly subjected to intenser scrutiny themselves. The public and journalists alike questioned the ethics of the relentless paparazzi and the nature of tabloid journalism. Diana's death became a watershed moment, forever altering the discourse around privacy and the media. Conclusion: the enduring legacy of the image Princess Diana's story is a powerful lesson in the duality of fame. She was both a victim of and a master of public relations. She broke the traditional mold, transforming a silent royal persona into a candid, global force for good. Her legacy is defined by her advocacy and the enduring power of her image. For English learners, this narrative has provided you with the essential words for media and public relations. You now understand the nuance between the clandestine leak and the carefully planned exclusive interview, the difference between journalists and the intrusive paparazzi, and the significance of controlling your narrative. By using words like scrutiny, symbiotic, and dissemination, you can articulate a complex relationship between power and the press. Diana taught the world that vulnerability, when shared with candid honesty, can be the most powerful PR tool of all.